Welcome to Inside Luxembourg Sport, the podcast where we talk about everything to do with high-performance sport in Luxembourg. And today I have two of probably the most influential people in high-performance sport here in Luxembourg. I'm joined on today's episode by Ralf, Lenz, who is the General Secretary of the Olympic Association, and Raymond, who is the Technical Director. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining me. I'd like to start just to kind of maybe get a little bit of background, and maybe I'll start with you, Ralf. Just kind of how did you end up in this role as the General Secretary?
Oh, well, I was from young age on involved in sports. I played volleyball for a lot of years, mainly also in the national team. And when I stopped playing national team, I joined the board of directors of the Olympic Committee as a volunteer. For 15 years, I worked in the financial sector. But I was always looking a little bit alongside if maybe I could link my professional passion and my sports passion. But yeah, I never find the real solution. But then my predecessor, Dan Dax, he retired. And it was an opportunity for me to point out my finger to the president and to tell him that this position could interest me. And after several speeches, yes, I came to the Olympic Committee. And so now I'm there for 3 years now.
It's a nice way of combining your love of sport with some of that kind of development aspect as well.
Yes, sure. When I was working in the financial sector, I was mainly active in project management and leading teams. This is a domain that I'm living also today at the Olympic Committee. With the sports background I have in volleyball, I think this is a good combination for such a position. And so I could link my passion with what I've learned for 15 years in the financial sector.
Yeah, great. Raymond, come to you. How's your background get you into technical director?
Yeah, a long career also. I have been athlete and studied sports science in Louvain in Belgium and was coach at the beginning, but very soon I started at the Ministry of Sport. We developed the Sportlycée, and there I had a longer career as director of the Sportlycée. And then there was an opportunity when Heinz Teves retired to get a job at the Olympic Committee. So I switched from the education side to the sports side again, a little nearer to the sports again. So in 2020, I switched to the Olympic Committee.
Yeah, and how did you find that transition going from the Sportlycée? We'll get into the discussion of how you set that up, but how did you find that progression from that school environment into this more kind of high performance?
I think it's interesting getting back again to the sports side. And on the other hand, working for a non-governmental association, quite different to education governmental side. So it's more the context that changes than the topic. So it's a different area. Yeah.
Cool. And I ask all my guests this, kind of what's a normal day in the life if you're going into the office? How do you start, Raymond?
Yeah, a normal day is just multitasking all the time. So a lot of different topics running in parallel a little bit. That's what's changed mainly because at school, one clear defined environment and here different partners, different actors on different topics. And so it's multi-directional. So the mainly day is switching from one topic to the other and then searching for some rest moments to reflect on certain things.
Yeah, that's going to be a really important thing as well as developing sport and looking back at what you've done and how effective it's been and then planning for the future.
Yeah, it's some topics that are close. So we plan for multi-sport events like Andorra, or we plan for the summer in the European Youth Olympic Festival. And then there are more strategic plans, like we now will focus on the Olympic integrated sports concept or relationships with the federations, relationship with the athletes. So there are really different topics.
And Ralf, I guess yours is probably a bit more strategic planning in your role?
Yes, regarding the statutes of the Olympic Committee, my mission is to implement the decisions that are taken by the board of directors or the executive board. And so for me, my general day depends a little bit of what moment in the year we have. We have moments where we are closer to sports events. So there I have more contacts with other Olympic committees because I also have the mission to represent alongside our president, the Luxembourg Olympic Committee in the Olympic family at the level of the IOC, the EOC and the other Olympic committees. When sports events are coming, I have more international contacts. Also several general assemblies we have to assist. And then there are times in the year where we have more contacts with national federations or where I'm more active also on together with the Ministry of Sports, where we discuss budgets, where we discuss future investments, all this stuff. And then for sure, a lot of time, I also reflect on how to organize the Olympic Committee, how to organize our process and procedures to be effective in our way of functioning. Because, I also have the responsibility to organize the Olympic Committee overview with Raymond on the sports side and Michel Touche, who's our head of operations, how we work together every day.
Yeah, that's good. Less than a year since the last Olympics, probably quite a success, I would say. We've got lots of Luxembourg athletes kind of coming through. How do you reflect on the last Olympics and how is that building you to go forward?
Maybe the institutional part, maybe Ralf is more about this. And for me, it's more on the sports side, reflecting how we can develop high-performance sports in Luxembourg. With a high-performance institution, how to develop that institution, but before that, the Sportliche and the federations, to really improve the quality of work that is done in sports in general. And this starts very early ages, so how we can get involved to the general society in more physical activity on sports in general, in the schools. So getting the clubs closer to the schools, getting the federations and their clubs more professional in order to higher the quality of training. This is, I think, the one big step we should do. So we should not allow ourselves in Luxembourg to lose anybody's talent. So get all the talents in the sports, that's the first step, and then those that we have to look at it very individually, very in depth, also the scientific part of the training of sports development together with our partner, which is the High Performance Institution. We're looking forward now to LA 28 or Brisbane 32. I think, or I'm persuaded that altogether we can do better than we did in Paris.
Well, if you look back on Paris, did you meet the goals that you'd kind of set from a sports-specific side?
We met some goals, not all. Generally seen, I think we were a little bit below the expectations we had, getting some more, or maybe 1 or 2 top 10 places. We even discussed the possibility of a medal, but at the end achieved 5 top 20 places, which was good, but we expected a little bit more.
That's one of the things I think as well. People potentially don't realise how difficult it is to even get to the Olympics too. And maybe from a public perspective, they haven't seen the commitment, the dedication that these athletes have been putting in the development making. I take your point, you maybe didn't reach what you wanted to do. But
yeah, it's very important to raise that point because already being selected, being qualified for Olympics is a high achievement. We have to be aware of that because analyzing the results the people get in Paris or in Olympic Games is already something very highly appreciable. And so we very often see, he's being 30th at the Olympic, we are not so happy about, but at least that is off from the best of the world. And even if there's a big difference between one sport and the other, the qualification standards to qualify the games is not the same for every sport. So sometimes it's easier to qualify and sometimes it's really hard, and you're already part of the best of the world when you're taking part of the Olympic Games.
Maybe what some of your takeaways from the last Olympics?
Well, the Olympic Games in Paris were games that have been so close. Never games have been before, except 100 years earlier in Paris, which gave us a lot of opportunities to organize things and have projects that we never had before. So we wanted to take profit from the close distance and organized a lot of special things for the parents, for the supporters, for the sports interested Luxembourgish people. And this was an opportunity, I think, that we met completely. We organized for the first time in history Luxembourg House that was open every day with events every evening with transmissions from the sports events together with our German friends from the German Olympic Committee. And every evening we had a lot of people that visited us that we could network, we could bring them together, they could meet the sportsmen. And this gave us a platform that we have never had before. We had the Olympic flame in Luxembourg from the first time after 1948. And we had thousands of people in Schengen to celebrate the Olympic spirit. And this was an amazing moment. And so in Paris, we had hundreds of Luxembourgish people that were there that we could meet, and that gave us the possibility to show the Luxembourg athletes, the Luxembourg sports, and we still live from this moment. The fire is still there. We are now talking with the ministry or starting to talk with them what we will do in Los Angeles. This has never been started so early before Olympic Games.
Yeah, I was going to touch on that, the success of the house, and it obviously met the objectives that you wanted to do, and maybe what are some of the kind of key takeaways from that?
Oh, yes. We met the objectives, but it was quite of a crazy project because we've never done it before. 2 years before the games, we had the idea, we started to discuss about it, and we asked ourselves the questions, how are we going to do this? How are we going to finance this? Because you need a project for a project, you need money for a project. We had nothing, we had no starting point, but we had the idea. So we started to talk a little bit around. We visited several ministries, Ministry of Tourism, of Economics, of Sports, to discuss with them about the idea, and they were in. They wanted to help us, but still we had no project. And we were telling ourselves, if we as an Olympic Committee are going to organize this ourselves in Paris, this will be so huge that we will not be able to do it. And then at one international meeting, we met our friends from Germany. They took a whole stadium, the rugby stadium, to organize their Olympic house, and they had one floor that was free. So we discussed with them, and finally we rented this floor to organize our house together with the government of Luxembourg, who financed it. And the German friends helped us a lot in everything that was logistics, food and beverage, and we could never do this without their help. And so step by step, we build up this project. Yes, there has been a lot of discussions how we're going to organize this from a financial point of view, the entrance fee, food and beverage, because we never have done it before, but it was a plain success. Sure, if we would reproduce it a second time, we would change several things. One thing we missed was to organize one area where people can enter for free and they can buy their food and buy their drinks to finance it. But if we would have done this, would have joined one supplementary level of organization, because you don't know how food beverage you need. And this was one point we did not want to tackle with our small team. What is a pity now is that the next games are across the sea in the United States. So we will have to make up a whole new concept, because there will be a lot less Luxembourgish people, there will be a lot of visitors. So it will for sure not be an Olympic house that will be open every day, but we need to find a new concept that we will build up on experiences we've made in Paris.
Yeah, it's exciting that you're actually thinking that far ahead and starting to plan for some of those kind of ideas. How does the shift of thinking go then from, right, we've learned these lessons from Paris, we're now looking forward to LA, but there's lots of other events as well in there. There's Winter Olympic events as well.
That mainly we do on a sports organization point of view with our chef de missions, but every event is special on itself, from the level to the number of sportsmen and sportswomen that participate to the range of age that is present. There are a lot of things change, but I think the red line that goes through it is that we try to develop more and more the feeling, to be closer and closer to the sports family, to the friends and family, and to foster this feeling as a group from event to event. And I think we succeed well in this. It's also a little bit and error, what works, what does not work. And it's a whole system approach, from the athletes to the family, to the team members that are around, to our board members. We have discussions with every kind of people that are involved. And from event to event, we progress in that.
Yes, if I can add to that, because in Paris, what we really succeeded is living the spirit of Team Luxembourg. I think that we succeeded well, the athletes, the coaches, the federations, the support structures around. So we really assembled something quite nice around our athletes. This spirit, developing it, spreading it even larger to the common society, is one of our main objectives. We can succeed maybe already in Andorra for the future, even when you get the small states again to Luxembourg. But till then, there are some intermediate steps. We have the Milano Cortina Games with a small delegation, of course, visiting LA to prepare the LA Games. And which undermines all that is the projects we have with the different athletes. So the talents we see already that may be improving till Brisbane, or qualifying for Brisbane. So we already look to those athletes at a younger stage with the federations. And then for the LA Games, we already have in mind those athletes that might perform at a higher level than maybe in Paris for the LA Games. So different levels of strategy. One is the athletes' development. One is also the federation's development to make them ready. And for us, for the Olympic Committee, being ready to assembling, to coordinating all that, getting the finances on the background. And so there are different levels of strategies we are putting in place, and we all together, there's quite a young team in the Olympic Committee also, and we are looking forward to the next year and to really improving.
Yeah, it's interesting because we've spoken a lot on this series, talk about the culture of sport here in Luxembourg. And potentially it isn't quite the same as some of the other countries or smaller nations that really see sport as a big driver to, I want to go to the Olympics, I want to compete at the highest standard. And the consensus probably is that we don't necessarily have that mindset here in Luxembourg at this moment. It seems to be developing. But
Yeah, that's right, because we are not used to win. We are not, and now when you see what's happening, we won in football against Sweden. We had 3 bronze medals by Patricia van der Weken, and you immediately see the reactions of the people around. We are getting proud of what's being done, and we are not used of being proud of the results we do at international people. I think it's very important we change that to get more results. So we really invest also in high performance, really invest in results, in excellence. Invest in excellence should be a really aim for Luxembourg. And then will come also the society will be part of it. And really, when we see the reactions we have now from Patricia or the football improve or the basketball women's team last year and so on. So it's really taking the society with us. And that's maybe the difference between bigger countries and the small Luxembourg that's more the habit of maybe not winning so often.
Yeah, it's interesting. Again, the other debate we always have in developing high-performance sport is, do we invest at the top? Do we invest in certain individuals and promote them? Or do we get all the infrastructure right at the bottom and try to push more people through it?
Should be both.
Of course, it should be
very important. And if I had the choice, of course, it started with the youth, the people, the generations, the whole school. But we need also to invest in the quality. Otherwise, the support structures, if they are not in place when you get athletes at a certain level, then you are not participating in the same competition.
I find it interesting. You actually say to invest in the youth would be the starting point to make sure we're trying to build a mindset. Is that the kind of idea?
Yeah, I think we are in the new integrated sports concept. We talk about 3 objectives, but all the objectives have their value. So it's not one or. I think it's really the youth and the broad, also just being active, being physically active, being engaged in sport. It's not just like putting a wall between those that are just participating and those that are competing. No, I think every human being has different moments in his life where he's doing one and the other. So if we invest in the educational system, the club system, I think it will be a good perspective also for developing others.
You probably manage the budgets, I guess, a bit more, Ralf, more say in some of those. Is that?
Even when I'm more on the budget side and more the operational side in the Olympic Committee, Raymond and myself, we discuss a lot about these topics because we need to share the values, we need to share the view that we want to follow, and we discuss it with our boards. We also have these discussions at that level and also with sports ministry and other financial partners, because we need to explain them the way we want to go and we need them on our way to finance this way. And I think they are quite on the same way than we are. It's an whole system approach. You need the basics, you need sportsmen and teams like those that are going now to the Game of the Small States that compete at an intermediate level to create your top athletes. You need role models to motivate other athletes to follow their way. And out of this, you will have a sports culture in your countries, because it's also the intermediate level athletes that are cheering for the top level athletes. And it's their families and their friends that are following the way and that are motivating the whole sports culture. So you cannot run from the other. And for sure, we should not make them and put them in concurrence, because if we are in concurrence in our sports world, we will not compete with other domains that also are invested from public funds and that are also gathering money from partners and sponsors. So we have to follow our way altogether.
And how do we go about doing something like that? I said one of the ideas potentially is that we choose certain sports, maybe individual sports. Is that a better way to go? Is that something that we need to consider?
It's reflections that have been done. I think when you get with the youth, I think we should have a broader development. That's clear. But then to what extent we can develop a sport in Luxembourg itself. So maybe in Luxembourg, when you see what are the main sports or what are the sports we can develop to the highest level in Luxembourg, then we should maybe focus on some sports. And then for those that are not in those sports, we have a quite good tradition in sending athletes to foreign countries so they can develop outside. We have swimmers in the States, we have basketball players outside, we have a gymnast in the Netherlands. So it's always possible if you want to get to the highest level. Luxembourg could be of excellence of building up the youth. So really preparing all the kids that are in our society to get to a certain level and have the best experts in the youth and really high quality training. That should be our first step. And then it's in the choice of the athletes also to get abroad in the football players, how many football players we have in foreign clubs. So it's not just looking at the Luxembourgish area. And if we stick to the Luxembourgish area, we have to make a choice where we can really achieve excellence.
It's always a challenge here in this country because there isn't so much a professional sport kind of system. And then again, you want to get a lot of elite level athletes that end up going overseas to perform and train, and whether that's in the US college system or other professional kind of teams. How does that influence your control over sport and the development of athletes when they're going externally?
I think the main contact is through the federation and the personal coaches. So we are guiding, putting in place some money. If detect somebody as being talented or having potential for the future games, so we make a project around those athletes with money and support structure. At the end, the athlete and his coach who are making the choice and guided by the federation, together with the federations.
How much of his job is it then for someone in your roles to keep a track of where people are and how they're developing in their sports?
Very difficult. So we are a few people, so we should have more people also to really be closer to the project. But it's also strengthening the federations. We need to get more experts around the athletes, what we are doing already right now with the LEAPS, and even if LEAPS is growing, get more scientific people around the athlete. And finally, it will be those that are in close relationship with the athlete and the coaches. It's not the role of the Olympic Committee of being close to the athletes. Our role is to supervise a little bit the project, to see what's going on, and to evaluate also at some extent to which athletes we keep on following and which we don't keep on following. So the role of the Olympic Committee is a step ahead to what is done closely around the athlete.
So how do you keep a track of what your then kind of key performance indicators? How do you set them for yourselves in your role, both from a sport-specific and an organizational perspective?
From sports side, we have criteria of getting into our squads, elite and promotion squads, and for the athletes that get even a project on top of that. So we have performance indicators, result indicators, levels of world ranking for each sports. We look to the project of the athlete to see potential. Of course, of the coach, what the coach means, the development and so on. Looking also at the career of the athletes, how developed. All those indicators are put into our reflections. And then every year we have a squad revision where we define the project for the next step.
This is very much a data-driven approach for athlete management and development.
Yeah, more and more. Yeah, I think we should have more scientific approach, performance evaluation, the results and the world level, how the other countries develop. So where's the world levels and why did that place? This analysis is done by us. And again, when you look at the performance indicators around the result, it's more the federations doing those analyses.
Yeah, it's one of the things I tell our students here at Lunex is talking about this data analysis is becoming such an important role.
And we should focus also on those precise data in order to not invest money or time in something that is not so valuable.
From an organizational perspective, you've mentioned matching up with Germany and some of our partners of countries that you would lean towards setting up organizational objectives?
Based on my professional experience, I have quite a good view how good governance and structures can function. We often look at other Olympic committees, how they are organized, but often their organization depends on their local structures, opportunities and realities. So you cannot simply copy a system that functions outside of Luxembourg to Luxembourg because their relations to their partners different. If you look at the relations between Olympic committees and their sports ministries throughout Europe and even in other parts of the world, you have so many different systems that cannot simply copy them. If we take the Luxembourg sports law that states that the sports movement is autonomous and that the role of the state is subsidiary and complementary, this is quite different than in other countries of Europe. Even with changes at ministry level, those politics can change. We try to improve our way of functioning every year. We make good governance analysis based on criteria that are made up by the IOC, and we are taking small steps together with our board to improve this, always considering also what's going on outside of Lux.
How do you then manage? Obviously, there's more spend from government spending in sport in Luxembourg, but it's still very much the bottom of the list of where money's being spent. Is it success at Olympic levels that change that mindset, or is it other strategies that you're able to put in place to show the development plan?
It's a combination of different things. For sure, it's not only the success at international levels, because from a society point of view, it's not acceptable that you spend all the money or the main part of the money that's invested in sport in high-level sports. Sports concerns so many different parts of the society, like the well-being, the social system, the health system, that you have to tackle all those subjects. You have to build up projects on these parts. Also, to have the arguments to invest or make the government invest more money in sports. And that's also one project of the Olympic Committee. For years, we have been active mainly at competitive and high-level sports. But we also have the S in our abbreviation, Comité Olympique et Sportif. So we are also responsible for the sports in general, for sports development, for development through sports. And in this area, we started several projects the last years that also help us to give the sports ministry the necessary arguments to have the discussions with the finance minister to decide on the part of budget that is invested in sports. And for sure, it will not only be high-level sports that will make a finance minister change his mind to invest more money in sports. It's the broader view of what sports can bring to society.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. And I suppose if you look around Luxembourg, there's lots of great facilities, new facilities being built all the time. Is that part of that way we can use sport to develop the society as well as high performance?
Facilities, it's part of the game. We have amazing facilities in Luxembourg. Maybe we should invest a little bit less in having amazing structures, but to have structures that can function efficiently. We lack magnificent facilities. We need several more, but on the right place and to be used by the right people.
I think that's one of the things I've seen from coming over here for about 5 years. The facilities are great, probably, and I think you've mentioned it yourselves about maybe we are lacking in the resources, the people that are highly skilled to be able to do that. What might be some of the ways that we can go about training and educating more people? We try here at Lunex, but...
It's very important. We have to invest in the best in quality training, so we need the best people around the athletes. It depends on what area the people are active, but we need more people around all kinds of people being physically active or doing high-level sports. We need more experts in all the domains in sports. And then, of course, the government has to make a choice also that it is important. I don't know if there exists any other area where it is accepted that non-qualified people are dealing humans. So I think it should be a generally law that you need highly trained people around everybody that you are training with. At any level, school level, it's done. We have PE teachers, but at primary level, it's not always the case. Then club level, you know the context, so it's there where we have to invest more and more, and it's not the walls, but it's really, human resources.
Where do you see the big development in that area? Is it in coaching? Is it within the data analysis? Is it another area?
I think mainly coaching with the youth. So it should be at every kid that is growing in Luxembourg and in doing any sports or physical activity should be encadré by a high qualified person. The data analysis is coming on top, of course. But so everybody that is being active or training needs to have some coaching of a high skill.
Yeah, we're getting some feedback. There's more and more jobs being brought into the sports industry and the sport workforce is growing.
Yeah, I think we are aware. The awareness is raising. So the awareness that it is needed is there. And it's mainly also because of the well-being topic, this health society topics where the youth is going in, the World Health Organization, so is reading behind. And that's why we also say it's a governmental approach. It's not just the sports ministry, it's the education ministry, it's a health ministry, it's a family. Its well-being and excellence can be very close. It's a more whole of a system approach that we should implement. But the awareness, I think, is really growing more and more in the heads of many people.
Yeah, and I see some of those kind of developments kind of going through. But possibly it's again that mindset shift in being something that's also useful for a wider society.
Yeah, maybe use the 2% of the military budget to invest in better prepared kids.
Well, it's a valid point. They're saying we potentially don't see as much sport going on in schools. I said, particularly from my background in different countries, I've spent a bit of time in Australia, the UK and Ireland. It was pushed. Everyone was doing sport. But it seems to be here, it's almost like an afterthought. I don't know whether I'm right in that. You've mentioned yourself getting more kids involved in sport and understanding the benefits of being physically active. How do we make that mindset
change in schools? School is the basis. Interconnect the clubs and the schools and find ways how we develop this, because there are different structures. There's a formal school structure, the non-formal school, and the clubs besides those three partners to put them together and help every kid physically active and finding for every kid the passion in some way of being active. And I think it's possible that we can find a motivation for every citizen in our country. And therefore, the school where you spend so much time being young, building the passion, and at that moment it should be. And how we should interconnect the different structures and not having the structures side by side, but interconnecting, coordinating the structures. And how is, of course, a discussion with the politicians also. And it's locally different, so each commune has its own situation. So it's really developing it with a participative approach, the bottom on.
Yeah, well, it's definitely something that's I see developing as well. And you said we're educating more students. We see more students coming in, particularly in sports science here, because there is a need to grow those kind of ideas and development in kind of areas. And maybe it's actually looking at how people can not just see sport as something that I need to go to till I can't do it anymore, but it's a lifelong kind of thing as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So also the clubs have to develop in some way. It's not just competition. It's also the family. And so it's a social thing through sports. It's the development through sport is something that is not that much in our mindset yet, that in any situation where there are some difficulties, maybe sports can help bringing people together. And so this is for us very important that this politics, the government sees that it is not just for sports, but it is also through sports.
Yeah, and I think as well, we've seen the success. As I said, we've got Patricia van Berken and being very successful in the last couple of weeks. I said in basketball, the cup final, there was 3,000 people there coming out to it. Potentially there isn't seeing sport. We don't show an awful lot of professional sport or the high-level sport in this country.
It's not so much advertised, but I think that also the proximity to high-level international sports in France, in Germany, in Belgium, close to Luxembourg, also takes a part of the tradition away from Luxembourg. So the offer is so broad that the Luxembourg people can follow, that it's very difficult for Luxembourg sportsmen teams to get in mindset for high-level sports. If you look football, just go a few hundred kilometers into Germany and you can see Bundesliga games at a level that you cannot see here in Luxembourg. You can follow international competitions in Paris very close on TV. You see everything. So it's difficult for Luxembourg sports at the level that is practiced here in Luxembourg to get a sufficient audition.
Focusing on Olympic sports and the Olympic development, obviously, we're going to LA and to Brisbane over the next couple of years. How do you see that the push from Luxembourg side in those sports? How do you plan now for where you're going with those?
On the sports side, we're in contact with the different federations. So there are two main ways. First, with the athletes, we detect as potential or talent. We try to develop those athletes. And on the other hand, we look with the federations on where they have to develop in order to put the right structure. Do they have the right strategy? Are they LTAD compliant, or what is their model they're putting in place, helping them through the Ministry of Sports, getting more professionals or having more possibilities, and then the support structures around that. So maybe also triangle of the support structures. You have the youth building, the support structures. we have the federation, and then on the other hand, we have the different individual projects we try to help going the right way.
Is there much kind of a transfer of talent between different sports here in this country?
Not in Sportlycée, a little bit. You see some of them, but not that much. It's something that I think it should be more promoted at the club level. The fundamentals are the same between a lot of sports, and getting them in one commune. Some communes, clubs work together, but it's very rare because everybody is protecting his own area. And that's a little bit a pity because like in football, you have many talented athletes that might be more talented for sports or the other way around. So this exchange is still missing. Again, it's on local level, the club, with the schools. If you have quality teaching at the schools, the sports teachers would detect those potential and help them finding maybe the right club or where they are suited. So I think it's always starting at the local level where the people live, go to school, their club, where their family is acting. So that's where we should focus our main point.
And from a development point,
I'm very close to the ideas that Raymond mentioned. Clubs have to work together to find the right talents. And that's one point of the LTID concept. Don't focus too early on one sport. Stay open-minded to what's happening beside you. And it's really also the same in an institutional point of view. On the political point of view, we have to work together, to have one goal together, to exchange freely our ideas, our strategies, and to find the right way to go all together. It's whole of a system approach. And Luxembourg is so small that we have to benefit from these small ways. We are close together. Everybody knows each other. We can pick up the phone and really call everybody in the sports world to discuss topics. And this is not a reality in other countries. So we have to benefit from this special situation in Luxembourg.
Yeah, utilizing those kind of things that are available to you that bigger countries don't necessarily have the opportunity to do.
I can add, because I think human beings are very often guided by fear. We fear that something could happen, that he is quitting my club. And I think we should take distance from that, because when we offer quality training, when we have really good coaches, well-educated coaches, but with the right skills, also mental skills, social skills, and so on, they will develop kids and people. And then, of course, somebody makes a choice. Maybe you're more passionate for football, I'm more for basketball or for athletics and so on. But at the end, the choice will be made by the kid based on a good quality education system. And then there will be for everybody. There will be a win situation. If we put in place the highest quality in the clubs, highest quality training in the schools, and this interconnection between those, I think everybody will win from it, and we will improve our sports level tremendously.
I won't get into discussion about how we get the federations into buying into that kind of system and getting away to thinking about different kind of sports. It's probably quite challenging.
Nobody will lose, I'm sure. A coach at any level, commune or club level, who is doing good training, the kids are standing in a row.
One thing I am interested in, though, because obviously with the Olympic movement and the changes, we see different sports coming in and out of the Olympics. How do you guys then adapt to do something like that? We now have things like lacrosse coming in for the next Olympics, squash coming in. How are you able to adapt or make those changes, or is it really difficult?
Our system to support federations and sports, we don't focus on Olympic sports. Even those sports that are not Olympic, they are active on an international level, and they get the same support if they are Olympic or not. So if we have sports that integrate the Olympic movement and they are on a good level, because we supported them before, this will give us a lot of benefit. But mainly the sports that are now added to the program are team sports. And in those team sports, we are not at the same international level than we are in individual sports. It's just a question about numbers. We will never have a sufficient number of team sport athletes to put a team sport at the highest international level, but we will always have one or the other individual sports athlete that will join that level. So these sports that go in or out of the Olympic program, that does not tackle us too much.
Coming towards the end, got one final question for you. We've just finished Brisbane in 2032. What would you say is a success at that stage for Luxembourg at the highest level?
Yeah, I think if we increase the number of athletes, maybe 20 athletes in Brisbane, getting maybe a medal, but the medal is not always the thing I want to mention. but more athletes, and that's one of our aim. We want really to be more competitive and have more Luxembourgish athletes being competitive at the highest level. So increasing the number of those that succeed to be there should be. And if we succeed that, I think we achieved our goal. Yeah.
There's nothing more to say. That's one of the 3 objectives that we mentioned in our concept, and having more Luxembourg athletes at the highest level worldwide. So if we reach this, our goal will be met. And if perchance, or because we have really good athletes, we will have a medal, we will take it. But I would prefer triple the numbers of athletes that we have at the Olympic Games than to have 1 bronze medal, because this will happen if we have a number of athletes that is really sufficient.
Yeah, we see some really good development through our high-performance athletes. There's a lot of good athletes, a lot of triathletes out there who are doing amazing kind of things. As you said, some of the team sports are also developing, so something is going right.
And it is not just Olympics. We have huge improvements in our team sports also, like I said, football or basketball also. So there's some improvement that are not Olympics. So maybe get to some Europeans ones with the team would be a nice success too. So
let's just touch on that very quickly. And we get into a stage where we're coming up to the next small-sided games. So that's one opportunity to develop, and then we'll go into more European championships kind of events. How do you kind of really get people to engage, or how would you get people to build the interest around Luxembourgish athletes at these events?
For Andorra, for the small states games, I think it's coming by their own, because there we have a larger community. They have their clubs, they have their families. So we travel to Andorra with 200 athletes. So there will be a large community. So from the coverage side, it's easier and more broad than for Olympic Games. So it's more sometimes for the Olympic Games, getting people interested also in the few Luxembourgish athletes. And that's why I think we really succeeded well in Paris, because we made it more than just games. We made it for the Luxembourgish house. We had a Biermans La Poutre where we had a family and friends. And for the Andorra games, it will be a little bit easier for us to engage the society. And what we try for Andorra now to really, we have the Spielfest also for the broader society. We really get the contact between the Spielfest and the Andorra small states games to really, make a bridge between general sports development and some competition or high-level sports.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see that. And I like your idea about getting more people involved and just giving them the opportunity to stay involved. The sport at all levels is really important. So, gentlemen, I really appreciate your time. Insights have been very good. I really enjoyed listening to it myself. So, Ralf, Raymond, thank you very much for joining me.